Welcome to Variant, where we love comics more than I can't believe Halloween is over and the holidays are already upon us. I'm your lovable host, Arris. With another awesome Villains Month behind us, we hope all of you had a safe and spooky Halloween. But this week, my comic comrades, Thor Ragnarok is finally smashing into theaters, and we're pretty jacked up about it. To gear up, we've got some awesome tie-in episodes leading to our review of the movie this weekend, starting with the history of the strongest there is, the Hulk. Now, one would think that the history of Bruce Banner / the Hulk was largely well known, but with the era of superhero movies taking pretty significant liberties with the comic book origins and stories of many characters, the waters have gotten a bit muddy. So before you see him on the big screen this weekend, we're here to set the record straight with an updated look at the Green Machine's comic book history. Let's do it. In the early 1960s, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby had Marvel Comics running at the top of their game, and after The Thing emerged as a fan favorite from the Team Fantastic Four, Stan the Man was looking to capitalize on that with a new character. So with Lee and Kirby drawing inspiration from classic monsters like Frankenstein, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and Quasimodo, the Incredible Hulk was born. And he made his first appearance in The Incredible Hulk issue 1 in May of 1962. Bruce Banner Hulk's comic book origin has been altered several times over the years, and even more so in the movie adaptation, as I mentioned before. So let's take a look at his classic origin along with some of his biggest changes and additions that followed. With a story inspired by Cold War era military weapons testing, Hulk's origin was laid out in his very first issue, Incredible Hulk issue 1. In the book, we first meet Dr. Bruce Banner as a US military scientist under the command of General Thunderbolt Ross, while Banner and his team was preparing to test detonate their newly designed gamma bomb. But just as they're about to start the countdown, Banner realizes that a teenager named Rick Jones had driven on the test range. So Bruce immediately tells one of the other members on his team named Igor to delay the countdown until he's able to get the boy to safety, then jumps in a jeep to rush to save the boy. Unfortunately, Igor was a Russian spy posing as a scientist to steal the info about the gamma bomb, so he never stops the countdown, hoping that Bruce would die in the blast. And while Bruce just manages to get the boy to safety in a trench, he is left completely exposed to the full force of the gamma rays when the bomb goes off. Over the next few panels, we see that mysteriously Bruce has somehow survived the gamma blast and is taken back to a military hospital for observation. He wakes up dazed and confused, believing death would be inevitable from the exposure to the gamma radiation. But instead he transforms into the Hulk later that night and escapes the base. The Hulk's original series was cancelled with issue 6, but the Hulk immediately guest starred in the Fantastic Four issue 12 in March of 1963, and months later became a founding member of the Avengers, appearing in the first 3 issues of the team series. Then, a year and a half after The Incredible Hulk was cancelled, the Hulk was featured in the Tales to Astonish, beginning in issue 60 in October of 1964. But let's go back to the first issue for a minute, because there are a few interesting facts that stand out in the first appearance and origin of the Hulk. For starters, when we first meet the Hulk, he is gray, instead of the iconic green. This is because Stan Lee wanted to use a neutral color that would avoid correlations with any particular ethnic group. But colorist Stan Goldberg had several problems blending the color gray within the issue, resulting in several different shades of gray. So the gray was quickly abandoned, and the Hulk's color was changed to green for the second issue. The second thing you'll notice is that originally Bruce would only turn into the Hulk after sundown, but in The Incredible Hulk issue 4, when Bruce cures himself with the help of Rick Jones using a gamma ray machine he built, he is left weak and feeble. So he makes some tweaks to the machine and manages to regain the Hulk's strength while retaining Bruce's mind. Then later in Avengers issues 1 through 3, we would see that the overuse of the gamma ray machine turned Hulk into an uncontrollable monster, spontaneously changing from Bruce to Hulk and back again. But it wasn't until his run in the Tales to Astonish comic that stress and his emotional state were established as the trigger for Banner turning into the Hulk and vice versa. Which leads us to the fact that while the Hulk is a destructive beast in his debut issue, he's not mindless, and actually speaks like a normal person. Yet again, it wasn't until his appearance in Tales to Astonish that the Hulk was changed to a more savage and childlike personality, and we see him speak in full sentences for the last time in Tales to Astonish 64 in February of 1965. The Tales to Astonish run also introduced a few Hulk supervillains, like the Leader and the Abomination, before being retitled to The Incredible Hulk Volume 2 in April of 1968. Then in 1985, writer Bill Mantlo gave us the retelling of Hulk's origin in The Incredible Hulk issue 312. In the expanded story, we learn that Bruce Banner had a tragic childhood in which his father, Brian Banner, was a scientist and a drunk who tormented and physically abused him and his mother. His father's madness made him so convinced that Bruce was a genetic freak and a danger to the world that he tried to kill him as a child, and when his mother stepped in to protect Bruce, his father murdered her in cold blood. The issue later revealed that Bruce had developed split personalities due to the trauma even before the gamma explosion created the Hulk, and that it was actually the years of bent-up rage that mixed with the gamma radiation and gave birth to the Hulk. This was a huge addition to the Hulk mythos that has played a major role in the evolution of the character ever since, influencing Hulk writers like Peter David and Greg Pak on several iconic story arcs, and the creation of several different versions of the Hulk, like Joe Fixit, Ultimate Hulk, and so on. Speaking of, we're planning on getting into the different versions of the Hulk in a future alternate versions of Hulk episode, so watch out for that. There are many more pieces to Banner's story as the Hulk, but that sums up the heart of the Hulk's origin. Now what about some story arcs? Like all A-list superheroes, the Hulk/Bruce Banner has had a number of great character-defining stories since he first hit pages in 1962. Starting with the classic first run I mentioned earlier in Avengers issues 1 through 3, in which he becomes a founding member of the Avengers, only to lose his ever-loving mind and go to battle with the rest of the team in issue 3. A scenario that repeated itself on an even greater scale in Fantastic Four issues 25 and 26, when the Hulk attacks the Avengers mansion after learning he had been replaced on the team by Captain America. The easily offended Hulk then takes on both the Avengers and the Fantastic Four at the same exact time, and likely would have beaten them both if it weren't for his old friend Rick Jones giving him a serum that forced him to change back to Bruce Banner. Next, we have the Future Imperfect story written by Peter David in 1992. Where we are introduced to a much older Hulk known as the Maestro. After 2 nuclear wars have ravaged the Earth, Hulk is driven almost mad by the devastation, and decides to rule with an iron fist over what is left of the human race within a massive city called Dystopia. That is until an elderly Rick Jones brings modern-day Hulk to the future using Dr. Doom's repaired time travel technology to go toe-to-toe with his older self. The resulting story and fight are epic. Then there's the Always on My Mind story in the Incredible Hulk issue 24 and 25. Where the love of Bruce Banner's life, Betty Ross, is murdered by Abomination, and the Hulk goes after him for revenge. The rage and hatred between both characters when they finally clash is intense, and the result is one of the most brutal Hulk fights in the history of ever. In the Return of the Monster story in Incredible Hulk issues 34 through 39, we get one of the best looks at the deep loneliness and isolation Bruce Banner feels due to the burden of his green alter ego, as he desperately attempts to stay hidden and evade those who hunt him. In yet another awesome Hulk story arc, Tempest Fugit, in the Incredible Hulk issues 77 through 81, writer Peter David puts the Hulk on an abandoned island, where we see him wrestle everything from giant squids and Wolverine to his own psyche. It's also a visually amazing series with incredible art from Lee Weeks. Then in 2003, Jeff Loeb retold the Hulk's origin from Bruce Banner's perspective in the 6-part miniseries Hulk the Grey. This might be one of the best looks inside the mind of Bruce and the Hulk ever written. And lastly, I'll mention a couple of our favorites here on Team Variant: Greg Pak's Planet Hulk and World War Hulk. In short, the story follows the Hulk after he's been banished from Earth by the Illuminati and accidentally crash lands on the dangerous battle-torn planet Sakaar, where he is forced to fight as a gladiator for the entertainment of the planet's evil emperor, the Red King. But this is the Hulk we're talking about. He leads the other gladiators in a vicious and violent rebellion against the Red King and his armies, ultimately destroying them all and taking the throne for himself as King Hulk, ruler of Sakaar. As king, he finds a wife and she becomes pregnant with their first child, finally giving the Hulk a sense of peace for the first time ever. But it's short-lived, because when the citizens of Sakaar bring the ship that brought Hulk to the planet into the city to turn it into a monument for their king, they accidentally trigger it to self-destruct, causing a massive explosion that destroys the entire city, killing most of its inhabitants, including his wife and unborn child. Which of course leads to World War Hulk, as he blames the Avengers for his pain and loss and brings his absolute rage over the death of his family to Earth. Listen, this is considered one of the best Hulk stories ever written for a reason. If you haven't read it, the totally bloody war that Hulk rains down on Earth's heroes is absolutely epic. It includes the Hulk reaching new limits of power in the process. Without any doubt, Planet Hulk and World War Hulk set a new bar for what a Hulk story could be. More recently, however, Bruce Banner was killed in the Civil War II event. In issue 3, we find Bruce Banner confused as he's confronted by basically half of Marvel's heroes. They then proceed to tell him that an Inhuman named Ulysses had a vision of the Hulk killing several of Marvel's heroes. Needless to say, being accused of crimes he hasn't even committed yet pisses Bruce off. But before he has a chance to transform into the Hulk, Bruce is shot in the head with an arrow and killed by Hawkeye. Hawkeye later explains that Banner had previously instructed him to kill him with a specially designed arrow if he was ever on the verge of turning into the Hulk again. That's still pretty rough though. The Hulk has temporarily been resurrected twice since then, once by the Hand and once by Arnim Zola. But with Marvel Legacy in full swing, it's only a matter of time before Bruce returns permanently. Then of course we have the current Hulk, Amadeus Cho, aka Totally Awesome Hulk. While helping cure Banner from being the Hulk, Cho absorbs excess gamma radiation and became the Hulk himself. And most recently, the Weapon X title gave us a new Hulk-Wolverine hybrid that we don't know too much about as of now, but it's a freaking awesome concept thus far. There are many more Hulk stories that give details to the character, or just great reads, but we would be here all day. Considering the fact that Marvel has to create villains that are powerful enough to match up to the Hulk, it's understandable that the Hulk may have one of the most overlooked rogues galleries in comics. As a matter of fact, many of the Hulk's greatest battles over the years have been the times when he found himself in conflict with other Marvel heroes. Nevertheless, Hulk has faced some of Marvel's biggest bads since his creation, and here are a few of them. Starting with his very first villain ever, Gargoyle, an evil Soviet genius with a massive noggin who was later reimagined as the Gremlin. Then there are some of his greatest nemesis, including Thunderbolt Ross, who would eventually become the Red Hulk, taking their rivalry to a whole new level. But also the leader, another evil super genius, Abomination, Absorbing Man, Zax, the UFOs, which are the evil counterpart of the Fantastic Four, and the list goes on. Let's start with the obvious. The Hulk is one of the strongest beings in the Marvel Universe, possessing the capacity for seemingly limitless physical strength, stamina, durability, and healing. His strength is also directly influenced by his emotional state. So the madder Hulk gets, the stronger he gets. And without knowing a ceiling for his strength, the Hulk has been categorized several times in the comics as an Omega class entity, which basically defines beings that are an ultimate threat with unlimited power potential. In another instance, the cosmic entity known as the Beyonder once analyzed the Hulk's physiology and claimed that the Hulk's potential strength had no finite element inside. Meaning if the Hulk really takes his gloves off, he's capable of destroying entire planets. Banner himself is a highly intelligent physicist and considered to be one of the greatest scientific minds on Earth, possessing a mind so brilliant it cannot be measured on any known intelligence test. He also holds expertise in biology, chemistry, engineering, medicine, and physiology. But other abilities he possesses when going green are superhuman speed and leaping ability, due to his incredibly powerful legs, allowing him to traverse distances of 1,000 miles with a single leap. He also uses his strength for his highly destructive thunderclap in order to create powerful sonic vibrations capable of debilitating his opponents or collapsing a building. Hulk has also been shown to be able to breathe underwater and demonstrated an incredible resistance to psychic manipulation. Lastly, the Hulk possesses near invulnerability and one of the greatest healing factors in all of Marvel Comics, granting him extreme longevity as a result. A few must-reads for Hulk fans would be Hulk's debut in The Incredible Hulk issue 1, Avengers issues 1 through 3 by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, the first clash between the Hulk and Wolverine in The Incredible Hulk issue 181, Hulk vs. most of Marvel heroes in The Incredible Hulk issue 300, Hulk vs. Wolverine round 2 in The Incredible Hulk issue 340, the 6-part Hulk Grey series by Jeff Loeb, Hulk Future Imperfect and Hulk The End by Peter David, and lastly Planet Hulk and World War Hulk by Greg Pak. First up for Wednesday, November 1st is Darth Vader issue 7. As Vader takes his place in command of the Emperor's secret Inquisitorius program, he sets his sights on one of the most dangerous Jedi remaining alive, and it's not who you'd expect. Here we have Old Man Logan issue 30. This issue brings the conclusion of the Days of Anger story, and we finally see if Hawkeye and Logan are in over their heads. Next we have Batman the White Knight issue 2. In this Elseworld-like story, the public support for Batman dwindles, and Gotham City's 99% rally around ex-Joker Jack Napier's crusade to expose decades of corruption within the GCPD. And finally we have Batman the Devastator issue 1. This issue gives us the origin of this nightmare version of Bruce, and I'll give you guys his origin sometime next week, as I continue to tell you guys the origins of all the Dark Knights. That's going to do it for today, but keep your eyes out for another special Thor episode in the next couple of days. Until then, join us over at variantcomics.com for more geeky goodness, and we'll see you next time when I talk about all things comics.